Okay. Okay. Another episode of the Things I Wish I Knew About Money podcast. I'm your host, Camille Smith, and today I have a special guest here. And this is different from usual guests because normally I don't get emails saying, hey, I'd love to be on your show to talk about a certain topic. And I was like, you know what? Let me go for it. And here we have lovely Mr. David. Welcome, David.
Well, the correct name is David Edey, and Camille.
David
Thank
Edey.
you. Edey, sorry.
Edey.
And I want to thank you for having me on the show. Yeah, I reached out to you and to talk about a subject that most people don't want to talk about. Most people, this is, I'm going to tell you right now, I know this is the 103rd episode of your show. This is the least sexiest topic that we're going to talk about. But at the end of the time that we're together, and hopefully we get questions, or people are going to be watching, people are going to make some changes in their life, which is going to help them not leave their families disorganized and in chaos. And I'm going to be saying that a whole bunch of times. So thank you for having me here on the show.
No problem.
Because I saw in the opening that there's an entertaining twist or something like that, or is there? Where am I going?
I mean, there is it's entertaining in the sense as it's a different way to talk about personal finance or financial literacy, especially since it is Financial Literacy Month. And then I found out it's Make-A-Will Month. So I was like, you know what? That's kind of perfect timing that they put it hand in hand. And I'm glad you were able to shine that light to me, because I didn't know at first. So it's always, I'm kind of quirky, and I like to know when what special days or special months there are, especially with personal finance, because I like those type of things. I just found out Thursday or Wednesday was International Accounting Day. And I was like, oh, wow.
Wow.
And
International Accounting Day. So that boring accountants got together and looked at spreadsheets. What happened on that day?
Hey, spreadsheets, balance statements, income statements, all those good stuff. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Things that make me happy.
Fascinating. But the topic we're going to talk about tonight, because we didn't even really say what we're going to be talking about, is that it's an area where 56% of Canadians don't have. We're going to talk about wills and estate planning, and which is also interesting is even though 56% of Canadians don't have a will or an estate plan, in our community, recent statistics show that at least 1/3 of Blacks and Hispanics don't even have a will. So it's a topic that, again, nobody wants to talk about. Most times when we talk about the subject of having a will and estate plan, there's three things that happen. People either want to avoid it, and I'm going to tell you, don't avoid it, because spoiler alert, we're all going to die. And they're either going to procrastinate and say, well, you know what, I don't want to, I'll put that off. I was actually talking to somebody yesterday, and they were saying, oh, I've been wanting to do this for the last 6 years, but having the conversation with me, they want to make a move to make sure they get it done this year. So they procrastinate. Oh, we'll get to it. But you never know when that unexpected emergency might happen. And the third reason people don't do anything is a lot of people say, you know what, I'm dead. What does it matter? It's not going to be my problem. whatever I've got behind, I'm just going to leave it to the family and let them figure it out. And that's where a lot of people, a lot of families run into trouble. And that's why we should also say the reason I'm on the show is also because talk about my book, which is Executor Help, How to Settle an Estate, Pick an Executor, and Avoid Family Fights. And it's all based on a true story, parts of it, of my family, of where it took 7 years, 10 court appearances, and $50,000 to settle my parents' estate, and they had a will. So, people, and you know what, and the reaction you just had, that's the reaction I get all the time, is that like, really? So yeah, we had a will, but in families, and as throughout our conversation, we're going to find out that a lot of people say, you know what, Camille and David, you're talking a lot of nonsense. My family, we get together at the holidays, we love each other. My aunt brings over the greatest peach cobbler, and we sit around, we play board games, and we laugh, and you know what? That's all well and fine. As much as we might think our families are perfect, we know that there's issues in every family. We might start out to be perfect, but we've all got our own little skeletons. And this whole issue we're going to be talking about tonight, it's kind of like a dirty little secret. Nobody really wants to talk about it, but it affects everybody. And that's how I ended up writing the book, because when I was talking about what I went through, I'd hear about an executor telling me about the problems he was having with beneficiaries, or I'd find out about a family that was breaking up. They weren't talking to each other anymore. So I didn't want anybody else to go through what I went through. So that's how I ended up writing the book.
Well, I'm glad you're able to tell a little bit about, or a lot, I should say, about yourself. Because I do see your book in the background as a best-selling author. And I was reading the book before we spoke to, or we're on the live, and it brought me back to a lot of things that I had to experience. And I wish I found your book before.
But just by me saying, every time I would tell somebody what I was going through, it triggered. Earlier today, when we were talking before we, were prepping for the show, you told me about the issue that you had, is that you ended up being the executor for your mom, and what you had to go through, and you and your brother. So you know how hard a job it is, how arduous it is, and your mom had a will, and you didn't have any family fights because your dad's still alive, right?
Correct.
But there still was a lot of work to settle the estate. I don't know if it's still, is it settled altogether? Did you get it closed?
With that part, because I was reading chapter 3, and I was like, I don't remember this part, but I know because most of the estate is joint,
right?
I don't have to deal with all that headache until
right.
So I'm glad I am reading the book and remembering the things that I did before, and I'm like, okay, these are also going to be the extra steps that I have to take. And
the extra steps, again, not delving too much in your business, but you told me as much as you were selling your mom's estate, you're actually the executor for your grandmother.
Correct.
So that, so you're, someone that has passed, and someone that you're making sure that they're going to, their wishes and their estate is going to be settled pretty smoothly as possible. Because when people are asked to be executors, a lot of times they take it on because it's either family obligation, or they're doing it as a favor to somebody. And it's probably the biggest favor that you're going to ask of somebody, because on most times it takes about 100 hours to settle an estate, and as working hours. You can't do it on the weekends, because a lot of times you got to talk to the government. And a lot of times it takes anywhere between 18 to 24 months to settle an estate. In my case, it took 7 years. So it's not a job that you say, it could be done
like
pretty easily,
but
as a part-time thing. So that's why I say it's important to have an executor when you're dead, but you need to prepare them while you're alive to make things a lot easier. Because family issues, as I said before, you really don't know about somebody until you have to share an inheritance with them.
You know what?
Yeah.
And not to like, not me. I'm not even gonna say me.
You know somebody.
I do. So I've heard stories and I'm like, wow. I'm like, this is really happening. And you really hear how dark and dirty things become. Like one of the previous episodes, the ladies from Elm and Oak Real Estate,
Right.
she deals with estates as well. And she was like, yeah, when people talk about estate planning, it gets ugly. Like gloves literally come on. And I'm like, I'm happy enough that our estate has gone like smooth sailing with my mom. Like there was no quarrels and stuff. But it's just sad that actually happens.
But don't be surprised by it. I'll talk from my situation. I can tell you the 10 times I ended up in court. I remember the first time sitting in court, I was having an out-of-body experience because I know my parents are spinning in their grave, because here we are, the three of us, we're sitting in court and we're having three strangers, two lawyers and a judge, decide how our assets, our family assets, were going to be divided up. And it seemed crazy to me because none of those three people, I don't remember seeing them sitting at our Christmas dinner. And I don't remember them being on family vacations. I don't remember them at all. But when it gets to that point, like I said before, you don't know about somebody until you have to share an inheritance with them. There's a sense of entitlement that people feel, and we have to end up going to court. And it might seem like it's a good idea to go to court because you know what? We all watch Law and Order. It should be over in an hour. It's not over in an hour. You're talking several hours, several days that you're going to have to take off work, sitting in the hallway of the courtroom. Then you're going to have, recess, and then you're going to have continuance, all of that sort of stuff like that. And it's not done in an hour like on TV. And then on top of that, you need to be scratching checks to the lawyer. So you just think, if I could just have my day in court and just get in front of the judge and let them know what a moron the other side is, it should go pretty simple. It's not that easy. So it's not uncommon to have family fights. It's not uncommon to have beneficiaries and want to sue the executor and have them removed. All of those things come up all the time. And again, you keep thinking, well, not my family. You'd be very surprised. It happens all the time. And that's why I call it sort of a dirty little secret that people don't want to talk about. I've got a friend, his family, they don't talk to each other because of Royal Dalton China. His mother left Royal Dalton China to his wife. His brother, when they were cleaning out the house, went to him and said, "Can I have the Royal Dalton China? I want to give it to my daughter." He said, "Go talk to my wife." His wife says, "No, your mom wanted me to have the China." Brother came back to the other brother and says, "You know what? Your wife is I'm not going to say." And since then, it's been 20 years. They don't speak because of Royal Dalton China.
You know what? Now that I think of it, it's probably a one thing that I would get upset because there's a silver fork that my grandma has.
Yeah.
Yes. And no one else is allowed to touch it.
Yeah.
And I hope my brother hears this. If you try to take my silver fork, we're going to be fighting.
Wow. See? Nothing's even happened yet, but see how it came out. And you're saying, how could people be like that? Look at you. Look.
Because we already know from the get-go for 30 odd years.
Yeah.
That's my fork.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck with that. All right. So then.
Well, I'll make sure she amends that.
Well, then inside the will, you want to have a separate sheet of paper saying specific personal items such as that silver fork. So, when you go to a lawyer, be prepared to be asked a bunch of questions like, who do you want to be the executor? Do you have any minor children? Do you want children? Do you have named guardians for them? And that's a whole set of, as a couple, if you have young children, that you want to have a conversation about. Who are they going to be the beneficiaries? Do you have a patient advocate so that if you have a power of attorney, if something was to happen to you, any charity bequests, any specific personal items like that fork that you're talking about, you want to name that. What if you have pets? Those sort of things. So those are the questions you need to be prepared to be asked when you go see the lawyer. So it's funny you should bring up about your fork, because if it's not named in the will, but it's always been assumed that you were going to get it for the 30 years. Your brother might turn and say, you know what?
The
I
fair
want
game.
that spoon for my child. I want her to have it. And then here we have a fight. And what are we fighting over? A spoon?
Where's my gloves?
See? Okay. And just like that, you turned. You're ready to go to war for a spoon. So you need to make sure that everybody understands it, and that's only going to come about if you have those conversations. Where my parents fell down, and I'll tell you a quick story. I've been a financial advisor for over 35 years, and it's not uncommon for me to sit in the office with my client and the lawyer, just so if there's questions they forget about, and I'm there as a buffer and stuff like that. My parents came in, had their will done. I wasn't in the room. My other sister was. And the reason is I could not fathom sitting in the room talking about my parents' demise. I could not think about them not being there. And that's my mistake. The other mistake is my parents didn't have, two of us knew of the three of us that there was a will, and everything was supposed to be split three ways. But one person, who shall remain nameless, didn't see it that way. So we had to end up going to court. And if my parents would have had that conversation and say, this is what's in our will, it's an ongoing process. We're going to have the conversation. This is what we want. Everything will be split three ways, and everybody understands. It'll save a lot of family turmoil.
You know what?
But a lot of families don't have that conversation. A lot of families shy away from that.
You're absolutely right. As you're saying that, I remember I did not know where the will was. I had an idea where it could be, because we have a vault, and usually that's the important stuff stay in the vault. But we never had a discussion on like passwords or whatnot. Actually, I lied. The last conversation I actually had with my mom was her saying, all my passwords are in my book. So if there's anything you need, just take a look at that. And there was a time when I wanted more of the passwords, just to know, like, I need to know everything just in case. And she was like, so what do you think? I'm going to die? And I'm like, don't have to be so morbid, but I'm just trying to prepare and stuff. And I don't think, and the reason why I want this discussion, especially because you're a CEA, is because I don't think we have these conversations often enough with our parents, as you mentioned it, and as I mentioned it, and I want folks to have that discussion with their parents.
It's funny that even though we were talking about the importance of having a will and an estate plan, it's funny you should bring up about digital assets. And for every one email address, there's probably about 160 logins related to that one email address. So, you've got your banking, online banking, you've got your investment accounts, you've got payments like PayPal or your credit cards, you got your passwords and logins for your email accounts, you got your social media. Each social media outlet has their own protocol. A friend of mine passed away 5 months ago, and it was kind of strange. Yesterday was her birthday. Yesterday on LinkedIn, say congratulations to her on as her birthday. Facebook, it popped up last night as well. Her birthday. It's clearly her executor didn't have all the passwords. So you need, not only the social media, you need the passwords for your utilities, any websites you might maintain, what you've got up in the cloud, which could be pictures and music and all that sort of stuff. You need to make a list of all of those things. And then if I could, give tips, is that make sure you have a list of, the last list of all emails, list of all the login credentials, make sure the executor or family friend knows where they are kept. You want to make sure you store it in a, there's solutions that you can store online, or make sure it's written out. And what I would suggest is that you keep it in a big red folder, which means the will, all the logins and the passwords, and somebody knows where it is. So think of it, if there's an emergency, we break the glass, we know where it is. Because if you say, well, it's in that filing cabinet, when someone passes away and there's trauma, you don't want to be looking, people can't find anything when they're traumatized. But if you said, hey, mom or dad said, look for that big red envelope, in there you're going to find the will, you're going to find the logins and the passwords. If there's a pre-arrangement funeral set up, all of those things, name of an accountant, all of those things should be in that brightly colored envelope, and make it easier on the executor and also on the family. Because people, in my first chapter in the book, is all of the things that you might have to do as an executor. The first thing you need to do is take time to grieve. And everybody in the family grieves differently. And I remember when my mom, because my parents passed away about 12 months in between each other, but when we were all going through, with my mom, and I remember there was a big blow up at the hospital, because everybody was grieving. We knew she was going. She was supposed to be, another 6 to 8 months, and then next thing you know, she was going in 3 days. So everything happened so quickly. And then I had my father, he was in an institution, so I had to take care of that. So there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of grieving going on. And as an executor, we know there's what the next steps are, but you need to first take care of yourself, and take care of yourself and your mental health, and grieve, take time to grieve. And that's why I put that as the first chapter in the book.
That's very wise. Like I said, it brought me back, and one of the best things I appreciated in that chapter was you. And I know there's not gonna, especially in the Caribbean, when it comes to animals, they think it's an outdoor animal. But having an animal, whether it's a cat, dog, or horse, anywhere you live, I don't know if you want to have a horse over here, but I think it is beneficial to have an animal or a pet, so you'd be able to feel alive still and not feel alone. Because that's
what pets, especially during COVID, people gravitated to them. But during a grieving period, if you had a pet, and to fight off the depression, it's going to give you a reason to get up and go take that dog for a walk, or go feed the cat. It's going to give you a reason to get out of bed. Believe me, when you lose a parent or you lose a loved one, your world, everything slows down. Everything is in slow motion. Everything is happening. And you don't know, you might forget to eat, or you may not want to eat, because the grief is so hard on you. But you need to take care of yourself, because those who've left you behind, they want you to go on. But but we're human, and it's a hard thing to go through. Like I miss my mom's voice every day, and I'll miss my dad as well. But you have to go on, but you also have to figure out, how am I going to take care of the other things? And what I talk about in the book is the business side. Yes, you're going to have the grieving, but you also have the business side, and you have to sell the estate. And you need to be as organized as possible, hopefully by the help of the testator, the person who's written the will. They've prepared you for just in case. So when that time comes, when you have to break that glass, and it doesn't have to be for when they pass away. It could be if they become disabled, or they have to be institutionalized, or in the hospital, and they can't do anything for themselves. And if you've been named, the power of attorney, and you've got, you're their patient advocate, you have to be prepared for all of those things to to go as smoothly as possible. You got to make sure you've got the passwords. How can you get into their cell phone? How do you get into their computer, their tablet? All of those things you need to take care of. And again, that's why I say it's such a big responsibility.
And now that you're saying, and I'm gonna pause and just think, there's probably some folks that don't know some of these terminologies, which I'm hoping they do. But I mean, if they don't, power of attorney, what is that? What type of role is that you have
The
to?
power of attorney or a pension advocate, that you would make that part of your estate plan, so that while you're still alive, because you're only going to die once, while you're still alive, but you still could be in a coma, you could be sick and you can't do for yourself, that you want to hand over the powers as if you're still living or functioning, so that they can pay your bills. They can, if there's registered mail coming to you, that they can go collect it for you. They can, make sure that your pet is being taken care of. It's all of those things that, as if you're in the hospital bed, but there's somebody else that can carry on those things for you until you're able to do for yourself again. So that would be for the power of attorney. And then if you're so sick, you want someone, you're giving them the power as your patient advocate for them to, I don't want to put it how to put it, but to pull the plug, that they know that this is what you want. You don't want to be kept alive artificially. You don't want to be left in a coma. Some people would, they would want to have the medication that would hasten their death. So those sort of things that you would mention in your will and part of your estate plan, so that that person who has those that power knows exactly how you felt. And again, intensive care is no place to find out that there's no will or power of attorney. And I can tell you, you can't have a meaningful conversation when they're on a ventilator. So that's why you need to have the paperwork in place, so that you make it easier on the family, so they don't feel they're left in chaos. They don't know what to do. They're not left wondering, I wonder what they would want. I wonder what mom would want. I wonder what grandma would want. You've got it written out, and you know exactly what they want, and just abide by what their wishes are.
Regardless if it changes throughout the years, even though if they do change,
they're going to change. You brought up a good point. You as your situation changes, you want to make changes. You want to update it. Give you an example. I went and visited my mom's. I'm here in Montreal, but my mom's cousin, really close to her, she had built a house in Barbados, and I went down to see her. She's 93 years old. And I don't know how she heard about the book. I guess my sister. So anyway, we're sitting there, and next thing you know, she comes out and she brings me the will. She puts it in front of me. So I'm starting to go through it, and she's got this house in Barbados. She built it on her own, and that's where she's lived for the last 20-something, 30-something years in Barbados, and she's in there in the house. And 93 years old, and she shows me the will. I look at the beneficiary. She's left it to her sister. And then I said to her, this sister here, isn't she dead? She goes, yeah. I said, but you left the house to her. So, and I said, the executor. She goes, oh yeah, that's my executor. That's my friend's daughter. I says, where does she live? England. I said, okay. And then I said to her, because she brought me a pile of papers, and I says, does she know where this will that you're showing me is? She goes, no. So I started to, and my sister was with me. So then we decided to, help her out and tell her what she's got to do. So we're going to do some follow-up with it. And that's a perfect example. As times change, there's things that happen in your life, whether it could be with your beneficiaries, your family members, whatever it is, or even your own life situation. You become divorced, there's things have changed. Maybe you moved countries, something like that. You need to update the will, because it could
Updating
become a mess.
yeah, updating is
Imagine you've got a house and it's been left to someone who's passed away. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, I would think the person that has to deal with that would be in hot water, no?
The person has to deal with that. But I asked the question, does she know where this will is? No. So now here we are. We've got someone in Barbados, and you've got somebody who's the executor in England. And they're going to come to Barbados, and they're just going to go through looking through paperwork. What are they looking for? They're looking for a will. Is it in a brightly colored envelope? What am I looking for? So that's why you want to make it easier on the executor to settle the estate as quickly, and not quickly, I'm going to say smoothly as possible, because it's not a recently, I forget what the headline was. I was interviewed by the Globe and Mail, and the headline was, being an executor is the worst job you could ever have. And it is.
I shouldn't laugh. But I understand that, because it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of anxiety. And even when I was trying to prepare my will, I was getting emotional thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to put this person in so much emotional
it's a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of responsibility. But so did this individual that you've already asked them to be an executor?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so that's good, because a lot of people are under the assumption that they have to accept a job. You don't have to accept a job. I've got a friend of mine, actually, in the book. She was asked to be. She found out that she was executor. She got a phone call from a lawyer, and she knew about the family situation, and she didn't want to get involved with it, so she renounced. So you don't have to accept the job, but a lot of people accept the job because it's one big giant favor. It's a responsibility, but 99% of the time, people have no idea what they're getting involved with. So that's why you want to surround as a testator, the person who's writing the will and the estate. You have that conversation with the executor, but you also want to make it as easy on them as possible. So maybe you want to give them an idea of who's an accountant that they may want to deal with, who's the lawyer that's maybe writing the will. Is there a financial advisor? All the professionals you deal with, because you're going to need those, and the executor is going to need them. Make it easier for them. Don't make them search around and say, well, I know they've got an investment account, or I know they've got a bank. I don't know where they dealt with, who they dealt with. So now they have to go on a sort of a scavenger hunt going through your stuff, because they don't know where you keep your stuff. Yeah, and and if you're flying all the way in from England, where do you start to look? You don't know.
Golly. So question, would you say with the clients that you have, and do you find that that happens more with our community than others?
No, our community is more hesitant, because they, like most people, talking about death, they think they're going to die. So they don't want to, so they're going to put that off to the side. They're going to be those who are either going to avoid it, or they're going to procrastinate, or they're going to think, I'm dead, it's not my problem. So it doesn't matter if it's our community or another community. That's why the statistics are so high. 56% of Canadians don't have a will and estate plan. It means, but in our community, at least a third don't even have, a will either. So it's just basic human nature. We're not comfortable with it. And what you have to understand is, by getting yourself organized, by having an estate plan, having a will, having the conversations that matter. It's especially with your family, it's probably the greatest gift of love that you can give them. It's better than if you ever had to change their diapers. This is the best gift that you could give them, is to be organized and make it easier on them. Because believe me, if there's going to be a mess, they're going to be cursing your name. And you can't come back and, well, this is what I meant, and this is what and that's where there's a lot of problems now if we talk on the family, whether it's our community or any community, is that there's a family who don't do anything, and we get along, it's all no problem. There's a family who there is a will, but there's no conversation, and they let the paperwork do the talking. And then what happens is there's not a mention of the fork, and then all of a sudden there's a big fight. So if somebody says, no, that fork is supposed to go to Camille, then it goes a lot easier. And then there's a family who has the ongoing conversation saying, you know what, when I'm not here, if something was to happen, this is where you're going to find it. This is what my wishes are. I want things to go I want the family to continue. In our family case, we don't own the assets anymore that my parents owned. And the three of us haven't spent the holidays together in more than a decade, since my parents passed away. So you've got to make a decision of how you want the family to continue on. There's a lot of talk about intergenerational wealth. That's great to build intergenerational wealth, but 70% of inheritance don't make it past the second generation, because there's no fight, there's no discussions and how we want to pass it on. So if we add it to our community, we're like even further behind the 8 ball, and that we need to organize it. Even in our family, again, parents didn't have the conversations. We've got land in the Caribbean, in Barbados, that we have to figure out how we're going to, because my parents didn't have those conversations. So now it's left up to us. We can either just let it stay there and let others take, which is what our birthright is, or we have to do the hard work and get a claim.
Gosh, that's especially if there's property or investment property or different properties in other countries. I can imagine how tough that is.
Well, you can see, well, later on in the book, there's actually someone from our community. I tell the story about how the executor didn't like what was in the will, and spent over $50,000 on the funeral, and because I'm not, go out and get the book. I'm not telling all the stories, but
true. Don't tell them all the stories, because honestly, like I said, I was reading it before, and it is an easy read, but when you're still reliving those experiences, it could be hard. So for the folks that do read it and they've experienced this, it could be hard. Depends on how you grieve and all that stuff. But it's also a great help to prepare yourself, because
and all the stories in there, those are all true. They're all true stories.
And I think that's really beneficial, because hearing different stories and seeing a different side of how people react and act, I'm like I said before, I was like, wow. And it is important to avoid these family fights and have these discussions, and especially if you are close with your loved ones, just try to be civil, like be civilized. But you know which one I like?
That's a beautiful wish, but that's not gonna happen, because that's how people are. It's just, again, you don't know about somebody until you have to share an inheritance with them. You really, you end up looking sideways like, who is this person? Because okay, I'll put it this way: if someone wants to leave a gift to you monetarily, they're saying, I'm leaving my legacy. I'm leaving a gift to Camille. Okay, Camille or somebody else. So that's the gift. They're saying, you know what, she's going to do something with what I'm leaving it. On the other hand, the person who's the inheritor, they only see that as a check. They only know that there's money coming to them. When am I getting it? And that's why I also talk about in the book, as an executor, what you need to do so that you don't end up in court because of the beneficiaries. There's three areas where you're going to have problems if you're going to be an executor, and I call it the triangle of conflict.
I was just about to say it.
If there's no will, if there's a second marriage, or why are you making a face? Or the brothers and sisters or the family members don't get along. If you're an executor of an estate that has one, any one of those from the triangle of conflict, would you say, sorry?
You'd be screwed.
Okay.
And because I'm thinking, I've heard a story where someone didn't change their will and their old wife was still a part of it. And the second wife was like, what happened? Or first husband, second husband, that's what was thinking in my mind. I was like, that would be
that's another there's another angle we were just talking about, the reason to update your will. That's right.
And beneficiaries.
And change the beneficiaries and rethink, you know what? In my first marriage, I have some kids. Am I going to treat them the same way as my second, maybe if I have my new family, how am I going to treat them? Again, once you do update your will, you're going to have those conversations. And it's funny, we're talking about having the conversations that matter. Recently, I'm talking to an estate planner who's done thousands of wills and estate plans. And part of his service was, when the will is done, he will be the third party to sit down and talk to the children and let them know what their parents have done. And he says, over his 40 years of being a lawyer, doing thousands of, and it's his, this is part of his service, and doing thousands of wills, only 8 times, he can count on 8 times where the families have taken him up on that extra part of the service, which is part of the service. And that's because parents don't want to upset the kids and let them know what's the will, what they're doing. Again, it's the sense of entitlement. When I was researching the book, I had a mediator explain to me that it was not uncommon for children to fight once the parents were gone and be in court. What's now in vogue, what's now the thing is children are now fighting while the parents are alive over the estate. So again, if we have if you have the conversations and parents, the matriarch and the patriarch are a little hesitant because, the kids feel some sort of entitlement. At the end of the day, your parents don't have to leave you nothing. It's their estate. They can do whatever they want.
True.
But as kids, we think that our parents should be providing for us forever, and whatever they have should be coming to you. It's just a fact.
I see that. Because I would be lying if I said there isn't something that my parents built, and I also added to the building that I shouldn't be able to reap that benefits as well. Right. So I totally understand that. I'm not saying I'm entitled or spoiled or anything. I'm just saying it's something we built, and I'd want to keep the legacy continuing.
Right.
So it would.
So you want to
only make
interchange your wealth.
sense.
Let's flip it one other way, and for tax purposes, your parents or your dad said, you know what, I want to give 75% of my holdings to my various charities. 75%, and 12.5 goes to you, and 12.5 goes to your brother. Are you okay with that?
I would want to say yes, because
You want to say yes, but you're not really.
I would be like, maybe I would be annoyed at first because that's
Yeah.
just, a human nature, but I'll be
Yeah.
like, you know what? Fine.
Yeah.
That's what you want. And especially if it's a charity, I
Yeah.
understand. And
Okay.
I think I would see that more with my dad giving away to like grandchildren
Right.
than giving it to
Okay.
a charity. And if it's grandchildren, I'll be like,
Okay.
all right,
And
auntie's okay.
okay. Okay. So then, but would your brother be just as happy? I don't know your brother. So
I think if it was a charity, I
yeah.
think we would be on the same page, but at the same
But at the
time,
end of the day,
people are
again,
different.
but at the end of the day, it's not for you two to discuss.
That
It's
is
not
true.
your decision.
That's true.
So you rolled your eyes when I said, well, you're going to get 12 and a half. And you went, it doesn't matter. And that's where the problem lies. I'm not saying you're absolutely right, but it seems logical. Oh, that's
Yes.
really great. But at the end of the day, we're still our parents' children. And we're saying,
Mhm.
well, what did I do? How come they don't want to give, why would you want to give to and not, what about me, Dad? What about me? So I get it.
Yeah.
It's a
It's
hard
just
thing,
human
but
nature. It's human nature. Like I would think I would feel a ways for a moment and then take it back and be like, okay, you know what? You want to do it, whatever with your money, by all means,
okay.
cool.
Dad, I
I'm
love you. I love you to death. Whatever you decide you want to do, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but that's what you're supposed to do. Don't, because you're not comfortable with it, but it's okay, and that's fine. That's fine. Again, your dad can just understand. Your dad can do whatever he wants.
That's true. And I'd be like, what can I do?
Exactly.
And
But
okay, now
and that's why a lot of children are going to court to fight. Yeah. Okay.
Let's I wouldn't go to court because I just feel like it's unnecessary. And like I said, it was smooth sailing with my mom. I don't see why it wouldn't be as smooth sailing.
All you have to do is be, your dad prepares you. Well, now that you read the book, and that's where you have the conversations, because a lot of times either the parents don't want to have the conversation, and because they don't want the kids to know what they have, or that you're going to be responsible for what's going to happen. So you might have the conversation and say, you know what, I just read this amazing book and I'm updating my will. Dad, what have you done? Or this is what I think we need to do. And also let your brother know what's going on, because your brother might be looking at you side eyes. Why are you asking him all these questions? Why you do it? If he's named as co-executor, it's going to call for 2 signatures for everything. So if he's co-executor, he needs to be apprised of what's going on and why you're having that conversation with your dad, or maybe the 3 of you have the conversation. Hey, we just want to make it easier on us if something was to happen, because we know you're going to be here for a long time, Dad. Something is to happen. We just want to be prepared so that the time we have to break the glass in case of emergency, that we know here's the file, here's what's inside it, here's what we're going to do next, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just it's going to hurt us so much that you're leaving us, but we just want to be able to take care of what has to be taken care of. And that's what needs to be done. I like to say a legacy isn't what you leave people, but it's how you leave them. So you can either leave a legacy or you can leave a legacy and a mess. It's up to you.
That spoken words.
Wow.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the gosh darn it, what was the word? The triangle
of conflict.
Conflict, because when I saw that, I was like, with 56% of Canadians not having a will, a lot of them are going to experience that. And I'm pretty sure during the pandemic, a lot of people faced these issues. And I just hope this episode will shed a
It's funny you
light.
should bring that up, because the pandemic did make people look at, for a lot of people, they were thrown in, there was death all around, there's talk about it, and people did think about their own mortality. Having said that, it doesn't mean that more people did anything about it. So
True.
we also, we need to continue to have the conversations, especially in our community. It's funny you should say that. I was on a Zoom call with an individual, and we were talking about my book, and she had talked about how her husband, he had been in the hospital during the pandemic, and he was in there for, I think it was alcohol poisoning or whatever. She wanted to keep him in the house. And then after 3 days, he says, no, they sent him home. A week later, he's having a heart attack on the floor, and he passes away at home in front of his 10-year-old son. And she could not bury him the way she wanted, because it was during the pandemic, everything was done on Zoom, and his will wasn't up to date. So there's a mess. So it's, the pandemic has changed, might have made people think it happened to me, or look at all those people, but they need to take that step to go forward. So, there's online solutions, do your own will. You can do it yourself, or go see a lawyer. Yes, it might cost you a couple $100, but you know what? The couple $100 you spend now is going to save your family heartache and thousands of dollars of probably unnecessary taxes that they're going to have to pay.
Exactly. Wow, that I know you have many stories. And obviously, because you've been a financial advisor for many years before your parents' passing, but what inspired you to become a financial advisor?
Well, I always liked the markets, and then I thought I would want to be a stockbroker, and that's interesting. But being a personal financial advisor, you're looking at the whole picture, and you're sort of the quarterback, so that you come up with a plan to help individuals in terms of them creating their own legacy and vision. So it's, are there, what are your goals? If we were to sit down and talk 10 years from now, what would you like to see happen? And talk about that. So I've had clients with me with 20, 30 years. When they first started working, they're now retired. And we've had those conversations. Individual where they were just saving, they start off with, $50 a month they were putting aside, and then it was over the years. And I've got one individual, she was a nurse, and she just started $100 a month, 50, and now she's retired, owns her own building. She's worth over $1 million, and she's retired.
Jeez, my gosh. And that's with the guidance of
it's the guidance, and also to make the decision of, and I'm not saying that you have to, as an advisor, you have to, eat peanut butter and look out the window and not go anywhere. It's just to find a balance of, what's important, pay yourself first. If you want the most basic and most book that will help you get you further, is just to read David Chilton's The Wealthy Barber. Just follow that. I knew David when before Dragon Den, when he first wrote the book, and he would be on the radio with me here in Montreal, and he had a whole garage full of books, and he was out promoting them. I look at him now.
Wow.
And he's helped millions of people just follow some simple, basic financial steps. And it doesn't matter what age you're starting at. Don't say, well, it's too old for me. It's too late for that. Just do something and think about how you want your life to be. And you can go forward from that. So that's what's always interested me as an advisor too. And you meet nice people, and you have conversations. And look at me, I wrote this book, and I ended up talking to you. So life has, I know, it's got a lot of twists and turns. Little did I know I'd be talking to you.
A Jamaican lady.
Well,
I did that just on purpose.
It's not like I want to check that off my box, but we all got our crosses to bear.
Oh man,
You
sorry.
wanted, you
I
wanted to get
want
that
to
in.
do I
You wanted to
just a
get that
little
in. Well,
bit.
see, I was people that are watching us, they don't know, but earlier in the day we had this long conversation, and I was just going to let it go. But you want to, but that's being my parents are from Barbados, and my heritage is Barbadian, and you're Jamaican, and I'm sorry for that, but and that's all I'm going to say.
Well, before I say, because I know people are gonna raise hell, my parents are Jamaican and I was raised in Jamaican culture. So just
Again,
before anyone says
I'm
you're
sorry for
Canadian,
that.
Jamaican,
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry for that. Okay, yeah. And my parents are from Barbados. We're from Barbados, and I was raised in Barbados. No, I wasn't raised in Barbados. I'm born and raised in Montreal, but my
gosh,
roots are from Barbados. So I have a kinship to that. But
so you understand the struggle.
what struggle
When
is
it
that?
comes to the Canadian, you announcing whether you're Caribbean first or Canadian first. I always say Caribbean first, personally.
But I'm Canadian first. I didn't. My first time going to Barbados was when I was 16. So that's like
That's a little
40,
bit
50,
different.
60, 40 something years ago. But I've always, sorry.
Sorry. No, I'm listening.
Okay. Sound like there was sort of a Jamaican dig coming in, but it's okay. I'm not going to say that's how your culture is, but it's fine. I moved on. As a peace-loving Bajan person, it's fine. It's all love.
Mhm.
It's all love.
And I'm loving the love.
Okay.
And what are the three things you wish you knew about personal finance as you was learning about personal finance as a financial
Three
advisor?
things is that
Mm.
it's never too late to start. Have a goal in mind, and you don't have to sacrifice your goals to get to where you want to be. You still can go on a trip. You still can, have nice things, but you don't have to have the best things. Just be comfortable and don't be worried about what everybody else is wearing, how they're looking, stuff like that. Because you don't know. I remember what's his name, Marshawn Lynch, plays football, and he was talking about in the hood. They always say, "Don't pocket watch. Don't look at what somebody else has got in their pockets. Just worried about yourself. Don't pocket watch, and just be yourself and do you enjoy your life, enjoy your family, but make sure that you're passing on your wisdom and also hopefully your wealth to the next generation." So I've got my son, and 3 months ago I just got my first granddaughter, Penelope, but she also goes by the name, I call her P Baby, like P Diddy, P Baby. So P Baby is going to learn, hopefully this will be wealth will be passed on to P Baby.
Nice. Oh, congratulations,
Thank
Grandpa.
you. No, G Daddy, not P
Sorry,
Grandpa.
G Daddy, G Daddy.
Sorry. Gotta go by G Daddy.
Well, G Daddy, look at that. And I'm pretty sure you'll be providing generational wealth to her, and she'll be enjoying the book that you have because you are a best-selling author, and soon she'll be able to have her own book. How
Absolutely, I think so.
life with G Daddy.
Life with G Daddy. Well, that's my P. That's my P Baby. So P Baby.
Oh, that's so
Okay.
adorable.
Okay.
And is there any other lovely projects that you're planning to do? I know you have a podcast.
So I have a
don't think
podcast, Executor Help podcast. But for most people, we talked a lot about a lot of stuff. And again, dip your toe in it because, again, not the sexiest topic, but we've made it palatable. We had fun with it. Again, I'm gonna give the spoiler alert. We're all going to die, so don't make it like it's a surprise. Oh my God, I can't believe that. So, and talking about is not gonna, you're not gonna die. So, if you go to my website, davidedey.com, on there, you can, there's a links to buy the book at all your favorite online retailers. I've got free resources. I've got a checklist for executors, so you can put that in your bright red envelope with the will and say, okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. So I've got the checklist there. I've got a quiz on there. What kind of family are you? And that you can take and answer some questions, and it'll give you the answers of what you need to do and the type of family. And all my social media contacts are on there. People have questions. I've also got I recently did an online course. I have an online course or a webinar, which is live. It's called How to Be an Executor. I'm probably going to do another one in the new year, but you can go on there and just get on the waiting list, and you'll be let know when it's going to be coming back. And that's it.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to put your information in the show notes. So folks, I can't wait for my signed book because I'm going to get a signed one.
Why are you buying it? Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. That's right. I did say I would send you one. I'll put it in the post. It's okay. I got one. Okay. So,
well, I like to support, so it doesn't matter.
No, I'm going to send you, because I ain't like that. So, I'm going to send you a book, but on all seriousness, what you do with financial IQ, it's an amazing stuff. I've listened to some of your podcasts, and I see what you're all about on your website. So you're doing good things, and all of the blessings that you want to share with others is going to come back to you in millions and other different ways. And people just need to listen to what you're saying, and everything you're doing is coming from your heart, and you want to help others, because there's nothing wrong with our community not passing on our wealth to the next generation. So why can't I pass to my son, and my son's going to pass to P baby? And it's people like you that are going to help the community go further. And let's just stop this sort of, I need to have the nicest bag or the latest phone or the biggest car, because at the end of the day, that's not going to get you anywhere. If I could say anything, all of the things that we've been talking about, some of the biggest stars we think, are they got to really figure it out. What do you call it? Black Panther just came out. Chadwick Boswick, he died without a will. DMX died without a will. Prince died without a will. Aretha Franklin, she didn't die without a will. She died with 5 wills, but they're all handwritten. So what possibly could go wrong there? So, in our community, and I even have a story in my book about Nelson Mandela. So our community, we can't say, well, it's just the other community. Our community too has the problems with the state and will intergenerational passing it on. So we just need to take the steps, and it's people like you teaching others and sharing your wisdom, which is going to help us the next generation go further. And I thank you.
Thank you, David and G Daddy. I wonder.
I came up with it.
Thank you so much for that phrase, and especially with your, I feel like it's with your checklist on the website, and also I'm gonna do that survey with what type of family do you have, or are you? I'm definitely gonna check that out, and it's an honor for having you on this platform, and I can't wait to hear more of your podcast as well, because it actually is interesting, and different stories make you realize whether you're doing so or you're on the right track, and that you keep doing what you're doing. So I hope folks are able to take in this lovely episode, and also
Didn't I tell you episode 103 was going to be special? Didn't I tell you?
Hey, you did.
Okay. All right. I wouldn't lie to you. I told you. I told you.
True. And folks, I'd like ladies and gentlemen to tell a friend, share, like, subscribe, and also go on David's website. I'm going to put in the show notes. Go on his website, LinkedIn, and all that great stuff. And I think he even has TikTok.
Okay, we're just sort of fooling around with that. Let's not broadcast that.
No worries. I don't even have that. But would you like to say anything else before we end?
No, it's again, just go to davidedey.com, and if you have questions, you can also just reach out to me and I'll answer you back. That's it. Again, thank you so much for having me on. Maybe we can figure out and do something down in the future, come back and we'll do something together.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that because I know with your podcast, it does talk about the difficult stuff, but we're never ever going to get away from that. That's for sure. And it's just, it is what it is. And on that note, folks, thank you for coming. I want to just say thank you again, David. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
And you guys know, with the ending of the song, it's always Andre's song. It's going to be a little different this week, but it's all good. And all that good stuff. Hold on. There it is. We're sharing. Bam, bam, bam. Oh. Golly. Hold on. Jeez. There we go.
Anywhere.
God off fame music.
A ville, flip, floss, money literacy boss. Flip, floss, money literacy boss. Flip, floss, money literacy boss. Flip, floss. Anywhere, chop.